In this alternate history, a boring week in Congress becomes the spark that shuts down the government for good and drags a superpower to the edge.
This story is fictional. It's based on real events, but everything beyond the known facts is speculation. Our goal is to explore an alternate timeline, not to rewrite history, but to imagine what might have been.
On Monday, July 20th, 2026, the headlines were almost boring. Congress had a to-do list and 1 week to finish it. House Speaker Mike Johnson wanted 3 things done before lawmakers scattered home for their August recess. More defense funding pushed through, the president's election integrity bill on the floor, and a ban on trading by members of Congress. That last one was popular. It had also died a dozen quiet deaths before. It was the kind of story that gets buried under everything louder. A crowded calendar, a tired chamber, members already booking flights home. But underneath that ordinary week sat something that was not at all. The defense funding bill wasn't just a wish list item. It was tangled up with the whole federal spending package, and the government's money was set to run out at the end of September. Recess meant the House would vanish for the back half of summer. So the real deadline wasn't September. It was now. But what if that week had gone differently? What if the 3 priorities collided instead of passing? What if the stock trading ban of all things became the wall the whole session crashed into? It started as leverage. A block of members announced they would not vote for the defense package unless the stock trading ban came to the floor first, clean, with no loop. The speaker couldn't give it to them. Too many senior members in both parties had portfolios they did not want frozen, so he tried to move defense funding without it. The block held. The vote failed on a Thursday afternoon. And then, with flights booked and tempers short, the House gavelled out for August with nothing done. At first it looked survivable. Congress had stumbled toward shutdowns before and always caught itself. But this time, the calendar was merciless. The House was gone for 5 weeks, and when it came back in September, the knives were out. The failed vote had become a symbol. The election integrity bill, already the most divisive item on the list, got welded onto the spending fight as a condition. One side demanded it, the other swore to block it. Neither would move. The money ran out on October 1st. The government shut down, and this shutdown did not end. The first week, national parks closed and workers were furloughed. Familiar pain. By week, it was different. Air traffic controllers, unpaid, began calling in sick in numbers no one could hide. Flights backed up at Atlanta, then Chicago, then everywhere. A near miss over Denver made the news. Airlines started canceling routes rather than risk it, and the travel economy, already thin, began to buckle. Then the defense gap did what everyone had been warned about. The funding that never passed included pay for active duty troops. By late October, service members were working without paychecks. Recruitment offices went quiet. On overseas bases, morale cracked. America's adversaries were watching a country that could not pay its own soldiers or keep its own government open. That was the opening. In the South China Sea, a confrontation would normally have ended with a stern statement instead ended with a rammed vessel and 2 dead sailors. The president wanted to respond hard. But responding hard costs money, and the money was frozen in a Congress that had gone to war with itself. The commander-in-chief gave an order the Pentagon could barely fund. Allies noticed the hesitation. So did rivals. Back home, the markets had been sliding since the shutdown began, but the foreign crisis turned the slide into a credit rating agencies, which had warned for years, finally pulled the trigger and downgraded U.S. debt. Borrowing costs spiked, and here the stock trading fight came full circle in the ugliest way. Reporters discovered that several lawmakers who had blocked the trading ban had quietly sold off holdings days before the shutdown began. The story detonated. Whatever trust was left in the institution evaporated overnight. By November, the shutdown was the longest in history, and there was no exit. Federal workers who had gone 2 months without pay stopped showing up. Food inspection lapsed, and a contaminated shipment sickened hundreds before anyone caught it. Social security payments, run by a skeleton crew, began arriving late. For millions of older Americans, late meant no rent, no medicine, no groceries. Protests started outside shuttered federal buildings and spread to state capitals. The election integrity bill, the thing that had jammed the gears in the first place, now became a live wire. With a national election approaching and the government in chaos, competing claims about who controlled the turned poisonous. 2 states prepared to run their elections under conflicting rules. Lawsuits multiplied faster than courts could hear them, and the courts themselves were slowing because the judiciary's funding had run dry too. The dominoes were no longer falling one at a time. They were falling all at once. A superpower that could not pay its troops, fund its courts, open its government, or agree on how to hold an election. Allies quietly built plans that did not depend on Washington. Rivals pressed every advantage while the giant was tangled in its own feet. When the chain reaction finally stopped, it did not stop with a deal. It stopped with exhaustion. A stripped-down bill passed in the dead of winter, months late, reopening a government that no longer worked the way it had. The military had lost a year of readiness and a generation of trust. The credit downgrade stayed. The travel and financial damage ran into the trillions. The confrontation at sea had hardened into a standoff that would shadow the decade. The most haunting part was how small the spark had been. Not a war, not a crash. A crowded week in July, a to-do list, and 3 ordinary bills that no one could agree to pass. A country brought to the edge not by an enemy but by a calendar it refused to respect, and by a room full of people who chose to go home rather than finish the job.
In this world, history went one way. But here, we ask what could have happened. If you want more alternate timelines and government what-ifs, subscribe, comment your theory, and stay tuned. This is State of What If.